Greetings, stewards of Gondor, men of Numenor, and welcome back. I have been expecting you. Today, we are going to be immersing ourselves in the hypothetical and theoretical future that is, what if Sauron got the One Ring? And more specifically, the outbreak that would be caused by this ring. For one thing, I would like to note that this is purely speculation and not something that is actually canon to the Lord of the Rings universe. This is just something that I thought I would like to do, and the reason I haven't been uploading. I obviously had to write an entire script for this video, and while I don't script the multitude of my videos that I do on this channel, as well as my Star Wars and Harry Potter one, I decided to do it for this one for the pure purpose I wanted it to be really good. So once again, very sorry for the late upload. I'm trying to upload much more, and in 2023, I'm going to try to do 2 videos a week. Sometimes I'll average 1, but that's just mainly because of personal stuff, and everyone knows personal stuff has to come before internet. Well, unless you're hobos, because you guys can just stay in the audience. Anyway, let us proceed. Would Sauron, would he have had control over the entire universe, or just Middle-earth? Neither just Middle-earth nor the entire universe based on my analyzation. Sauron, if he possessed the One Ring, let's say for a hypothetical example, that Sauron got the One Ring from Frodo. Let's say that while dancing over the fires of Mount Doom, Gollum was not pushed in by Frodo. Frodo remained lying and was knocked unconscious by Gollum as a safety precaution. Regardless of this, one of these little folk slips on the One Ring, alerting Sauron and the Ring Race, before Gandalf can even react. Frodo, Samwise Gamgee, and Gollum are all captured, and the ring has been returned to its rightful owner. Sauron would have crushed the Free Peoples and would have governed the whole world unopposed. He would have taken the Ring of Fire from Gandalf after decimating the men of the West, and most likely would have taken the other 2 Elven Rings after launching assaults on both Lothlorien and Rivendell, also known as Imladris. He would have commanded Middle-earth as only the chief continent, and plunged it into a seemingly perpetual global dawnless day, an enemy of darkness. The following quote from the Fellowship of the Ring states something that I think is vital to our research. The enemy still lacks one thing to give him strength and knowledge to beat down all resistance, break the last defences, and cover all the lands in a second darkness. He lacks the One Ring. Given that even in the Second Age, the wings of darkness would have reached Numenor, and even the Great Sea would not have been wide enough to contain Sauron's malice. This may have been the mid-term future in a world where Sauron now lacked powerful opponents. Once the Valar no longer lived in Arda, no other great Maiar were active. The elves and the men had been declined. The only other continents were either empty or uninhabited by primitive people still. Eru would have frustrated him anyway, but that could be in the long run, with Eru's machinations ultimately leading into darkness being triumphed over by light. However, that's a completely different story. The universe thing is more complicated. The whole universe was mastered only by Melkor at the peak of his powers during the beginning of his tyrannical regime. But the universe has an immensely broader scope in the sense of everything physical and material rather than dimensional reality. Ea was insanely vast. As vast as everything, as vast as space. Ea was forged of all matter, everything, all matter, all gravity, all electrohydronic particles. Every single thing that's around you is the universe. Sauron could not have controlled all of this without disrupting the Valar. And if the Valar were disrupted by Sauron, I personally don't think that even the Lord of the Rings at the peak of his possible power would have been able to match up against the Valar, unless he possessed a great army of orcs, and perhaps even some Balrogs, as he allied with the Balrog of Moria. Go check out that video on my channel if you haven't seen why he didn't. Still, Sauron was a genuine demiurge in the beginning. One of a lower rank than the Valar, of course, such as Morgoth or Manwë, but is still relatively vast and expansive power, and he was one of the greatest Maiar, if not the greatest undisputedly, with his only rivals being Gandalf the White, with him being able to absolutely ragdoll Saruman and Gandalf the Grey, was seemingly effortless. The Silmarillion tells us of vast spaces and splendours, and galaxies pathetically described as wheeling fires, and that the Ainur, by nature at least the Maya, shaped the vast things in Ea, of which Arda, in comparison, was tiny yet important detail. And amid all the splendours of the world, its halls vast and spaces, and its wheeling fires, Iluvatar chose a place for its inhabitant of the deeps of times, and in the midst of their innumerable stars, and this habitant might have seemed a little thing to those who could consider only the majesty of the Ainur, and not of their terrible sharpness, as those who should take the whole field of Arda for the foundation of a pillar, and so it shall raise until the cone of its summit were more bitter than a needle, or who consider only the immeasurable vastness of the world which still the Ainur are shaping, and not the minute precision to which they shape all things therein. For anyone who might think that Tolkien was a dumb and pointless writer without notion or preparation, and to clarify any misconception about scale, we're talking about a completely separate plane of existence. In the Demiguric period, they had no shapes, and the power wasn't, in the case of evil tyrannical beings, then mediated through lesser beings. They did not adopt vessels, they merely existed as pure spirits, pure embodiments of power. They're unseen spirits of immeasurable majesty and cosmic might, in order and in physical shape. Their power was confined therein, and in some cases mediated amid servants, with their power billowing out of them in fierce ways, allowing them to empower their armies. It's very similar to battle meditation in Star Wars, but the vast power of the Ainur plainly still exists since they're still shaping Ea. Those of Arda who are just concentrated on Earth and less important structurally are no less powerful. Furthermore, there is a discussion as to whether their confinement in Arda was voluntary or involuntary, as stated by Eru Iluvatar himself. What is known is that after the establishment of the little kingdom, the Valar and Maya did not leave Arda, subject only to special limitations voluntarily taken upon themselves or decreed by Eru. Thus, after the final establishment of Arda, when the Valar, the spirits destined to be most concerned with this chosen stage for combat within Melkor, took up their abode on Middle-earth, they no longer passed beyond its confines. That is, according to Elvish tradition, they remained, usually clad in their fenar, in physical residence on Earth as its guardians. If involuntary, then no, Sauron's domain would never have reached the cosmos, but it is quite likely that it was voluntary, for Melkor did leave Arda and enter it again, over and over again, in order to impose his tyrannical regime in more terrifying ways, even seeking the help of Ungoliant, a primordial entity of darkness, who almost murdered the Lord of the Death. Thus, if expressed in demiguric terms, and if unopposed by Eru and the Valar, Sauron's rule would have been universal, even multiversal, vast in scale, if not the whole of Ea itself, in the long run amid many wheeling fires. Another answer that resolves is the confinement issue, is that therefore the cosmos would be limited to the kingdom of Arda and its vast regions of air, and the outer sea surrounded by the walls of the world and the Vale of Arda, which are immensely vast yet finite still, and didn't extend into Ea. The universe in question would be menal, or at least until the firmest of the stars in their realm Elendar in Ilmen. Although this cosmological model only exists in the fall of Numenor, but it is highly unlikely that Sauron would have been able to master the whole Menor, or even some lower regions of Ilmen. For that time the Valar were still in Arda, and the Vardar or Menwë would have defeated them. Of Menwë, in Arda his delight is in the winds and the clouds, and in all regions of the air, from the heights to the depths, from the utmost borders of the Vale of Arda, to the breeze that blows in the grass. Sulimo, his surname, Lord of the Breath and Arda. Morgoth even confined and potentially could have mastered all of Menor, with Morgoth being the second most powerful single being in all of Tolkien's works besides that of Eru Iluvatar, the literal god, and someone on par with the one above all from Marvel, and the father of shadows and supreme maker from Star Wars, a being of immense, omnipotent power, states this. This last then I will say to you, Throm Morgoth, said Hurin, and it comes not from the Lord of the Eldar, but it is put into my heart in this hour. You are not Lord of men, and shall not be. Through all Arda and men will fall in your dominion. Beyond the circles of the world, you shall not pursue those who refuse you. In conclusion, the most Sauron would or could do is, in a small world and yet unhindered yet confined, would be able to control Earth utterly and create a vast cover of smoke using Orodruin, immensely vast and above the winds, blocking out any external views, perhaps such as aliens or extraterrestrial threats. The light grew no stronger, for Orodruin was still belching forth a great fume that, beaten upwards by the opposing airs, mounted higher and higher, until it reached a region above the wind, and spread in an immense roof, whose central pillar rose out of the shadows and beyond their view. The Lord of the Rings, the Return of the King. Well, my friends, what did you think of this theory breakdown? Tell me if you want to write more fan fictions and potential theories from this. I hope this was easily comprehensible for some of my younger beings in the audience. I truly love uploading on YouTube, so if you could please just check the subscribe button, it'd really mean the world to me. I spend hours on these videos, perfecting them, tinkering each little detail like the architecture of Khazad-dûm with the dwarves. And it would mean the world for me if you would really just use your glare of Sauron to turn the subscribe button grey. Farewell, my friends. I've just dispatched our riders on another mission to excavate even more information from the ancient tombs. And remember, my acolytes, remember my knights, and remember my men of the West. Goodbye, and I'll see you in the plains of Unfalglith soon.